Good morrow, lovely little ghost types, and welcome to the Dark Orchard for Laura Watson's Go With Me series.
As was said in my intro, this is the Go With Me series. More specifically, today we're not going anywhere. This is not a typical Go With Me series. I'm not going out to play Pokemon Go, which is the whole reason it's called the Go With Me series, right? But I am going to be talking about Pokemon. More specifically, I'm going to be talking about Detective Pikachu. So, if you want to hear me talk about Detective Pikachu, stay right here. If not, you can go check out my actual Pokemon Go stuff in my Pokemon Go playlist. But this right here is just me talking about Detective Pikachu. No spoilers. Just Pokemon. So, for Mother's Day, my mother and I went to see Detective Pikachu. And oh my gosh, I loved it. It was like the absolute most nostalgic thing I could have ever asked for, and it was perfect, and it was perfect, and it was perfect, and it was perfect. There was nothing I would have changed about Detective Pikachu. As most of you know, Detective Pikachu the movie is actually based off of Detective Pikachu the game. If you play the Detective Pikachu game, you also know that there was a nod to the original animated series, and there's also a nod to the original animated series in the movie. I won't tell you what it is because you have to be surprised like I was, but it was just so super cool. So I want to talk about the different Pokemon that you get to see in Detective Pikachu. One thing that I found really super awesome was that they worked with the artist from DeviantArt that created all of the realistic looking Pokemon. He created like what a Pokemon would look like if it were real and like made of different real animals. And I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I'll pop in a few of his artwork right here. I'll also link you to his DeviantArt down below, but they worked with him on Detective Pikachu to kind of get that same effect with the Pokemon that they had. However, with Pokemon like Bulbasaur, they made him still cute to still look like Bulbasaur, but have that same like texture of, which I thought was so awesome, because I know I for one stumbled upon this guy's art and was blown away by it. So the fact that they actually took influence from his artwork and made it a reality, mind-blowing. It's like seeing fan art come to life, and well, it's literally like seeing fan art come to life, and that was just mind-blowing and awesome. And I'm so happy that they actually paid attention to what the fans would want, because I have no complaints. Zero complaints. I know a lot of people. Before we get into the Pokemon that we see in Detective Pikachu, I want to talk very quickly about the one complaint that I heard the most, and that's with Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff is a balloon type Pokemon. Jigglypuff is described as a balloon type Pokemon, and he is supposed to be very smooth like a balloon. However, that would have looked super creepy in my opinion, especially when they did that cute little tuft of hair. I actually really liked the tuft of hair, and I liked that Jigglypuff was fluffy. Jigglypuff looked like you could just run your hand across it and it'd be really soft and fluffy like a kitten. So I personally was not bothered by Jigglypuff being fluffy and having that like layer of hair over the skin, because that just made it cuter to me. However, the Jigglypuff scene was the only part of the entire movie that kind of disappointed me, because he didn't draw on the man's face. I know I said spoiler free, but honestly that part's in the commercial, so you're not really missing anything. But the fact that Jigglypuff did not draw on the man's face kind of hurt a little. Like, I really wanted to see at least the guy laying there with his face already drawn on. So I'm going into this assuming that you've either seen Detective Pikachu or you've at least seen the trailers. So I'm going to mention some Pokemon that you see in Detective Pikachu. And I am labeling this as spoiler free, because even if I do mention Pokemon that you see in Detective Pikachu, it's not going to ruin the storyline. I also want to mention that Kathryn Newton did a fantastic job. Kathryn Newton, I know primarily as Claire from Supernatural, was amazing. She was mind-blowingly awesome. And I love that they gave her Psyduck as her partner, and Psyduck is actually her favorite Pokemon. Can you imagine being cast in a live-action movie about Pokemon, and then your partner Pokemon being your favorite Pokemon? Like, that's just so awesome. Another really cool thing that I just absolutely loved. Let's just talk about a couple of cool things in the movie that you may not have noticed if you've watched it, or you might want to look for when you're watching the movie. First off, the Pokeball. The Pokeball was so cool. Like, we see these like real life Pokeball videos all the time, or pictures where they look really cool. They look like they're made of metal and they have like the LED lights around them. I've seen them in person with cosplayers and stuff, and like, that came to life and it was so awesome. Like, it rocked back and forth. It was all around so cool. I loved seeing like what a real Pokeball would look like, and that movie really brought it to life on the big screen. One thing that you really want to look for when you watch Detective Pikachu is Tim's shirts. My mom actually noticed that they were focusing a little bit on Tim's shirts, but she didn't know why until afterwards when I was like fangirling over it. But he has unknowns on his shirt, and it's so cool because it's just a really cute nod to that special little Pokemon. Another thing you really want to look for when you're watching the movie is the different signs. Like, one sign has a knock towel on it. There are different signs throughout that have either nods to the original series or nods to specific Pokemon that we actually don't get to see live action, but we do get that little glimpse of them on a sign. So that's something you really want to look for too. So let's get into the Pokemon that you see in Detective Pikachu. But before we talk about any of the Pokemon, we need to talk about Detective Pikachu himself. Pikachu! Fluffy Pikachu. Oh my god, I just want to hug him. I just want to hug him and never stop hugging him. That Pikachu looked so cute. And I believe Ryan Reynolds said that they actually took his face and did his facial expressions, but made them Pikachu's facial expressions, which I find very cool. Like, it just adds that special touch to it. I actually was a little iffy about Ryan Reynolds being the voice of Pikachu at first, but it works. It works. Trust me, it works. It was so awesome. We get to see a Cubone. Cubone is so cute, and I just love Cubone so much. The Cubone looks so awesome. Like, the skull looks perfect in texture, the body looks great, it's the perfect size, like, it's absolutely perfect. Cubone looks like Cubone, except looks like a real Cubone that you could just reach out and touch. Aipom, sadly one of my least favorite Pokemon, makes a huge appearance in the movie. I don't know, they made Aipom look kind of scary. Like, I think all the Aipoms looked scary. But that's just me. I've never been a fan of Aipom anyway. It got on my nerves during the original series, so I think I just hold a grudge against Aipom. But it looked awesome. It just looked scary. On the flip side to that, Snubbull. So cute. Snubbull is adorable. Snubbull is that cute little bulldog Pokemon that has an underbite and is just the cutest little thing. Well, in the live action, it's huge. Like, it's much bigger than I would have imagined a Snubbull. Like, my follower, Shadow Emo Neko, actually said, can you imagine when it turns into Granbull? Because, like, it was already really big. Because, like, it was huge. So I can't imagine when it evolves. But I really loved the role that the Snubbull played. The Snubbull actually is the partner of a detective, and it's just so precious, and it's perfect in its little role. Out of the whole movie, Snubbull was 100% my favorite. Let's talk about that giant Charizard. When that thing came on screen, it was so amazing. I always thought Charizard looked cool. Like, just looks cool, and I loved the attitude that Charizard had in the original series. So the fact that we got to see a really big life-size Charizard on the big screen was so super awesome. I loved the texture. The texture of the Charizard was so cool. Like, it didn't look brittle, it looked smooth, but it still had that dragony texture. And its face was absolutely perfect. It had emotion in its face, it had emotion in its eyes. I loved it. And the Charizard trainer made me so happy. I know why, but it's silly that I know why. It's silly how happy this trainer made me, okay? The trainer had a giant Charizard tattoo on his chest, and it was just, and he was like dressed up real nice, and it just had that Pokemon trainer feel. Like, you know how in the original series you'd run into trainers like Lucy who would theme themselves towards their star Pokemon? Well, this guy had a giant Charizard tattoo, just like one of those trainers that would have themed himself towards the Pokemon. And I loved it. While I'm on the subject of the Charizard, let's switch over to the Loudred, because the Loudreds looked exactly like I would have thought they would. They basically made them Bluetooth speakers, like boom boxes. Like, the Loudreds were playing the music through their mouths and through their little speakers, and it was really cool how they took that Pokemon's powers and animated it through the film. It was just really awesome. And it was really cool to see how they took the more unique looking Pokemon and made them look realistic in that world. For that hour and 45 minutes, like, the entire theater believed Pokemon are real, because they did such an amazing job making them look like they just were part of the real world. While we're on that subject, there were Rattatas? I don't remember how to say that. The purple rat Pokemon. There were some of those, and they weren't like, in your face, here's a Rattata. No, it was more like, oh, we're in a creepy little place and there goes a Rattata in the background instead of an actual rat. There's a rat type Pokemon. And it was just so cool. And it was just so cool how they, like, made things less obvious. Like, we had that Zootopia-esque scene where Tim's walking into Rhyme City, and you see, like, different Pokemon and different signs and everything, but it's not like it focuses on each individual one. No, it actually just, like, briefly shows them, and, like, it's just a normal part, like people walking past him, but instead it's Pokemon. And that's so awesome. We do actually get to see all 3 original starter Pokemon, Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur. And they all look absolutely adorable. Bulbasaur, of course, was my first starter, and I absolutely love Bulbasaur so much. And they did an amazing job with Bulbasaur. I mentioned that they took the artist from DeviantArt into consideration when making these. Bulbasaur was probably the one that they made the most more friendly looking than what he originally had, because this Bulbasaur was very cute and very adorable, and it made the cutest sounds. Oh my god, the sounds! I've actually seen people talking about seeing a Venusaur at the very end of the film. I don't remember seeing it, but I want to watch it again to see if I can catch that Venusaur at the end. We talked about Catherine Newton and her character Psyduck before, but Psyduck was so cool. He looked fluffy but also feathery. It had, like, the Psyduck personality. I really enjoyed it. Though I did really love the Psyduck. I loved how they played around the Psyduck. Another controversial Pokemon that was in the film was Lickitung. A lot of people were saying that it looked gross. Honestly, I squeed when I saw Lickitung. I thought it was the cutest thing, and its scene was so funny. I think Lickitung is an adorable Pokemon. Mr. Mime was also in the film. And Mr. Mime holds a special place in my heart because I caught my very first Mr. Mime in Pokemon Go in Sweden. And I absolutely love the de-evolution of Mr. Mime, which is Mime Jr. However, the Mr. Mime scene was very strange to me. It was borderline violent, and it wasn't something that I expected. I don't know, it was just weird. I think if there was one part that I would change in the movie, just like all around change, it's just how they did Mr. Mime. I get the miming thing, but it got a little violent, like a little cringy violent. Like, I was just really creepy. Another Pokemon that shows up about halfway through the film is Ditto, and Ditto is always so super cute, but for some reason I just have a soft spot for pink Pokemon apparently, because I can't think of a single pink Pokemon that I don't like, and Ditto's one of those. I've actually cosplayed as the Ditto trainer Duplica. I really like Ditto. Ditto's so awesome. Like, a Pokemon that can become any other Pokemon. It's really cool. And have you ever seen a Ditto battle in Pokemon Go? Like, that's the most unique thing, because it literally turns into whatever Pokemon you're battling in that gym. Which makes sense, because that's like Ditto's power, but I think it's cool anyway. Greninja and Torterra also make appearances. I think the Torterra looks very accurate to the Torterras that we have in Pokemon Go. And the Greninjas looked very froggy. So I guess that was more the aesthetic for the frog type Pokemon, and they were like tree frogs, which was really cool, like giant tree frogs. The Eevee in the movie is so super fluffy. The Eevee in the movie is so super fluffy and cute. I really wish we would have seen more of Eevee in the movie. When we saw Squirtle, we actually saw sort of a Squirtle Squad moment where they were putting out a fire and it was a bunch of Squirtle. I honestly wish they would have had glasses on, because that would have just made my day. That would have made my heart happy. That would have warmed my heart to all extents, because to have the actual Squirtle Squad, a little nod to the actual Squirtle Squad would have been perfect, but still having Squirtles fighting fires, good job. We got to see Growlithe at the police station, which made my day. Like seeing actual Growlithe walking into the police station. So cool. I believe there was an Arcanine too. I'm just recalling this stuff from memory, by the way, so I'm probably going to miss a whole big bunch that I actually saw in the movie, but did not remember. But anyway, we saw Growlithe, and I think there was an Arcanine, but a Growlithe is so awesome walking to the police station, because if you know Pokemon, you know that Officer Jenny, who I've cosplayed, actually has a Growlithe companion. And it's just so awesome. One Pokemon that I think they got 100% spot on was Octillery. Like, even with just a glimpse, you know that's Octillery, and it was just really cool to see that. Ludicolo was so awesome. The coloring was perfect. I was honestly kind of shocked by the hair, like the actual beard hair, but at the same time, it makes sense. And it looks so awesome. And the fact that he was at the bar, it just all worked. It all made sense, and it was really, really awesome. And it always makes me giggle when I hear him say Ludicolo in that little voice and his eyes go all wonky. We get to see a Magikarp in a tank, and we get to see a Gyarados. And those are so cool, because they look exactly like you'd think they'd look. Like, basically all these Pokemon look like you'd think they'd look. But the Magikarp had like that perfect texture, and it was just executed so well. And then the Gyarados, whoo! The Gyarados was huge and had like the perfect face and the perfect texture. It was all just awesome. We get to see a Snorlax blocking the street and a Machamp directing traffic around the Snorlax, which is so awesome. And the Snorlax looks so big and fluffy, and I just want to bury my face in his belly. It just looked so, so adorable, and it was just sitting in the middle of the road asleep. Which of course is a nod to both the series and the game, where Snorlax would block their path, and you'd have to either do a side quest to figure it out, or they'd have to find the flute to figure it out. Like, it's awesome. It's so awesome. The last specific Pokemon that I'm going to talk about that you see in the film is Gengar. Gengar, the ghostly shadow Pokemon, is seen in the movie, and it was perfect. It was perfect. I've never seen a Pokemon more perfect ever, 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 ever. I love ghost types. And Gengar looked so awesome, like its goofy, clowny face, like it swooped by the camera, and it made this swoopy, like, goofy, Joker-like face, and I loved it. I was like, it was so cool. So awesome. I loved it. There were other Pokemon. There was like Flabébé and Dotrio and like, I think Wurmple and a lot of the bird types that I can't remember specifically exactly which ones we saw, so I won't really go into those, but those are in there too. And there were so many like small Pokemon or like flying types, they were just in the background because like I said before, they made it realistic. They made it like these were just casual animals in the background of shots. A lot of the time you just didn't pay attention to that because you're paying attention to what was happening in the foreground, but they were there, and it's going to be really awesome to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and pick out the different Pokemon that they just kind of plopped in there in the background. It was so awesome. All of the actors in the film did such a great job. I was so proud of Katherine Newton. Like, Supernatural family represent, but honestly, it was so good all around. Detective Pikachu is a magical movie that takes you back to childhood. Detective Pikachu is nostalgia in a film. Very quickly, I want you to tell me down in the comments if you're cool with this kind of video during my Go With Me series. Like, if you're okay with me not going and playing Pokemon Go with the Go With Me series, just let me know. And I'll just, like, sometimes I'll just come on here and talk in the studio about Pokemon because I love Pokemon. I hosted the 20th anniversary panel at IchibanCon about Pokemon. I love Pokemon. So, if you'd like for me to just come on and talk about Pokemon sometimes, I can totally do that. Just let me know down in the comments if you enjoy this kind of video with my Go With Me series, or if you just want me to stay with the going out, playing Pokemon Go, and talking about the history of the locations. Because I'm cool with either one, but I think it's really fun to talk about Pokemon. Well, there you have it. That was me discussing Detective Pikachu. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come around again soon. Say bye. Bye. So, as a, I think Liquid Tongue is a, I think, have I talked about Lady Colo? I feel like I did. I'll talk about it again. And it had a big, and I
think it's Manchop. The big one. What's the big one called? Machoke. Machoke. Let me look up the evolution. In case you couldn't tell, I love ghost types. Claire. Is it Claire? Brain. Brain went away. Brain go bye-bye. Claire? Claire? Is it Claire? Claire Novak? Does that name mean something? Claire, no. Yep, it's Claire. Yeah.
we get to see, but you know, that's grasping at straws. That I actually, so I'm probably gonna mention. So,
baby, what kind of Pokemon are you? See, I'm not a Pokemon, I'm Batman.
That so as the Ditto trainer Duplica, he like created like, and we do. I just dropped some sizzles. It's like a musically coloring was.
There are Ratatats. Is that how you say it? Ratatats? Ratata. Is it Ratatats?
And I don't know. I think one that you see on like every time, because I saw Defective. Like, just talk about a couple of cool things, but this, and like plasticky, like just let me do.
I want a Pokemon film with Wobbuffet and Mime Jr. I just want more. After seeing that, I want more. I want them all.